Wednesday the 23rd of December on BBC Two and iPlayer.
A year of two halves, from wholesome to house, via some questionable shoe decoration. Some strong language now on BBC Two, especially for you.
Right, listen! The first time round was rehearsal. This time round we're going to do it right. We're going to make a lot of noise, aren't we? Yeah!
In the year that Top of the Pops turned 25,
Top of the Pops was iconic.
pop was rejuvenated.
We did kind of cause mayhem.
We worked really hard at it. We were a double act. They loved us.
But it wasn't all good, clean fun.
Electronic music and DJ culture was really kicking off.
Acid, 303, 808, 909, house, dance, ecstasy.
With more music flavours on offer than ever before.
Ride around on the floor, just own it.
However diverse your taste in tunes, you could find it in the mix or the remix.
I didn't like the song until it got to number 4.
And the BBC's magnificent mothership played out the soundtrack of 1988.
This is the pinnacle of pop. I was at the epicentre of culture. Oh, God. I still can't watch it.
Love, baby, love!
1988, the year Eddie the Eagle was the epitome of British pluck at the Winter Olympics. Health Minister Edwina Currie had egg on her face. The pound note was gone forever. Mrs T extended her reign as Britain's longest-serving PM.
The 8 years and 244 days have gone very quickly indeed.
Who are you? And it all kicked off in January to the sound of screaming.
I just remember hearing this term, Brosmania, Brosmania.
Bros brought back the boy band with the most meta song title in the history of pop.
Listen, we've got Bros to start. They are so young. They are hideously young. When will I be famous? On top of the
box! When they first released this in November 1987, the answer was, not yet.
I never forget they said to us, you might get in at number 40. Maybe.
After 6 weeks, they were languishing at number 51, until a canny record plugger delivered the boys straight to a ready-made fan base on kids' TV.
Everyone was sort of saying, why isn't this working? Why isn't this happening? And I said, I've got an idea. Let me go back to Going Live.
Hello, Going Live.
I know everybody there. I know Kathy Gilby, the producer. Give me a bunch of 7-inch singles and also a handful of black and white 10x8 glossy photographs. Went to the Going Live office, and in the main office were lots and lots of desks with all the production secretaries and production assistants, mainly girls. And I walked in, and I put a single and a black and white 10x8 on every single desk. By the time I got to Kathy Gilby's office, there were 2 or 3 girls in there holding the 10x8s, saying to Kathy, who are these? Oh my God, they're gorgeous. Why haven't we had them on the show? And she sort of looked at me and said, oh, are these yours? And I suggested, are they free on Boxing Day? And without even checking, I said, yes.
Please welcome to Going Live, Bros. They are Craig, Matt and Luke. Here they are. Welcome, guys.
It was nerve-wracking, exciting, terrifying.
How old are you?
19, just turned 19.
They are girls.
But it was an amazing feeling to know that, your mum could watch you on TV that morning.
Here they are, the boys, Bros.
When will I be famous?
After Going Live, it really genuinely started to snowball.
3 weeks after their TV debut, they made Top of the Pops. Bros mania was in full effect, and all other pop idols were given the elbow.
Physically, they were just the most astonishing statuesque humanoids. They looked incredibly cool. And then there was poor old Craig Logan, known by smash hits as Ken, poor Ken.
Bros was a combination of the talent and the charisma of the boys with a great marketing and styling campaign. Their clothes were easily accessible to kids. Ripped jeans, inspired things like putting Grolsch bottle tops as laces in your shoes, badges all over your jackets and stuff. The girls aped every part of them.
We're the original Brosses. We're the original Brosses. We're the Peckham Posse.
It was a tumultuous year, and we had to learn real quick.
When you're 35 and 45, will you still remember Bros?
Yeah!
Yes, it's #1. It's Top of the Pops.
In 1988, Top of the Pops celebrated its silver jubilee and was under new management. After 8 years in charge, Michael Hurl handed the reins to fellow Light Entertainment producer Paul Ciani.
Paul was a larger-than-life character, and I'd worked with Paul a lot during my time at the BBC on shows such as Crackerjack, The Crankies, Keith Harris and Orville. All the greats. Those great light entertainment Saturday night shows.
Because he was very theatrical, darling, very show business.
I just remember his jumpers. He used to wear these bloody cricket jumpers. Like so many of those people that were involved in TV shows that featured sort of contemporary chart music, you always got a sense that they would much rather be working on Wogan.
Pretty impressive, eh?
Paul was cool. Wouldn't take any shit from anybody.
Instead, Mr. Ciani handled the record company reps like naughty schoolchildren.
Morning, we're going to sing a song.
A lot of
number 15 in the charts called...
Thank you, Mr. Lander.
And with any change, you're always trying to work out the psyche of these people. He's a taskmaster, Paul. He's a workaholic. Get the whips out occasionally. But, there was another side to him that I found quite endearing.
It goes this way. Here we go. We open with Pat and Mick at number 13.
But at the end of the day, we'd all chill after the show up in the bar, which was rude not to.
Does it go to your head, all this power, making and breaking groups?
What power, Susan? I have no power whatsoever.
1988 was all about the market. The lucrative tweenage audience was the target, and specifically girls. Sexy was off the agenda. Instead, we got virginal sweethearts, all very apple pie.
You had Tiffany, who was so American that she broke herself through into the mainstream by playing in shopping malls, not shopping centres, shopping malls, and then Debbie Gibson. These were very wholesome pop stars.
But there was one girl next door we'd already fallen for and sat down with at tea time every day. Neighbours. Alongside Top of the Pops and going live, Australian soap Neighbours was the biggest TV influencer of 1988. It was compulsory viewing for British kids who lapped up the down-to-earth drama from Down Under. A bit sunnier than EastEnders, frankly.
Obviously Neighbours was massive in Australia, but Australia had a population of, I think, 15 million, 16 million in 1988. The population of the UK was 60, 65. 23 million people were watching Neighbours. Now, that's 1 in 3.
God! Oh, thank you. I've only got half an hour to fix the oil leak.
All you have to say is yes, and then you can get on with it.
I've heard that one before. Yes, what?
Yes, I will.
Yes, I will. What?
Marry me?
I had no idea who Kylie was. We just didn't have time to watch television. I didn't have kids at the time, so we didn't know what Neighbours was. Kylie was with our Australian partners, and we had sent down one of our engineers, and he produced this record called The Locomotion by this girl called Kylie Minogue.
Oh, now that you can do it with me.
which had sold ridiculous amount, like 300,000 in Australia. He was about to do the follow-up, but he rang me and said, look, really what they want is you. Literally recorded I Should Be So Lucky in 2 or 3 hours. Wrote it on the go, because Kylie had to catch a plane back to Melbourne. The only time I ever heard Matt Aitken actually compliment a singer was Kylie. He actually said to me, you know, she's got a great little voice, fantastic, because she was an actress. She could pick up a song in literally 20 minutes. Whatever the it factor or X factor is, Kylie has it in abundance. The camera absolutely adores her.
You had this character of Charlene, who was this sort of mechanic, and she blossomed, completely blossomed. It was like a fairy tale in people's eyes, I think.
As well as all the sugar, 1988 also gave us some spice.
Here you go, way too fast. Don't slow down, you're gonna crash. You should watch your step.
There was a crop of power pop bands with a more feisty female presence. Voice of the Beehive, The Primitives, and Eighth Wonder all brought blonde attitude to the top of the pop studio. And there was one band and one girl singer with more swagger than all the rest.
The name of Transvision Vamp is Trans, because it was all across the world. Vision, because we wanted to view the whole world. And Vamp, because, you know, I was going to be a vamp.
Wendy James was the perfect antidote to what was going on with Kylie and Jason, and she loved that position. She loved being the critic from the sidelines.
If you thought that the rebel girl shtick was just an image, you'd be wrong. Wendy James knew she was born to sock it to us.
Kind of school I went to, they didn't offer pop stardom on the curriculum. I remember being a teenager bunking in to see the Clash play. And when I saw Joe, whatever he's doing, that's what I'm going to do. In 1988, I was in the heart of West London on Ladbroke Grove. I was thrilled with the legacy of West London and, you know, the kind of seedy but glamorous crossroads. Just that beautiful mixture of reggae and rock and roll and highbrow and lowbrow and mushing it all together and coming up with something. Our regular pub in West London called the Warwick Castle. Just a lot of good people were drinking in there, and it was a very good scene.
Personally, I love it down here on a Saturday. It's like a huge performance. You know, I view it as like a huge, crazy parade.
I would say if there was a kind of vision for Transvision Vamp, then it was a boy band fronted by a confident young blonde. We were taking the same principles that Blondie had, really, which is write quite classic pop songs, but dirty-sounding pop tunes. I already knew Mick from Big Audio Dynamite and The Clash by then. When Mick came round to the flat one evening and I played him the demo of I Want Your Love, and he said, if you just do a tweak to that chorus there, it's going to be a hit record.
When it hit the top 20, Top of the Pops presented Transvision Vamp to the nation, and jaws dropped.
All performances mattered. You just go out there and give everything, you know, writhe around on the floor, do, you know, Iggy Pop style, just own it. I was pretty reckless and wild girl anyway.
For some reason, it wasn't just Ms. James's gravelly vocals that won her fans, male and female. It was that look.
Well, my look gets dissected with far more thought than I ever put into it. I mean, I liked the colour pink. The lipstick, well, you know, was Miss Selfridge Frosted Pink. But had this been a different time, and you were a Kardashian, you would have made a pink lipstick line, right, and taken it straight to the bank.
She really just looked completely amazing, so she got all the music press behind her because the music papers were all run by men. I mean, at Melody Maker, they absolutely loved her.
Looking back, I'm sure if you analysed the media coverage that I got, some of it would be horrifyingly sexist. But I have to then say I didn't give a fuck. My first Top of the Pops. I didn't watch it go out that night on TV because I was back in the Warwick Castle and it was Joe Strummer's local as well. And I was like, we just did our first Top of the Pops. And Joe was, get this woman a drink. I was like, oh, what a good day. I just did Top of the Pops and now I'm drinking straight whiskey with Joe.
Another fixture on the Portobello scene was a band who hadn't been interested in the charts. But 1988 was the time to capitalise. And British reggae's finest finally put the ball in the back of the net.
Everybody thought it was a brand new band. Because the majority of people who knew Aswad were just reggae fans.
We'd been on the road 15 years before that. We knew what the road was. We knew what the music business was.
The most important part about music is actually lyrics, which is explaining from in slavery times that the only thing really had to soothe us was the music.
But it wasn't Aswad's signature roots reggae that took them unexpectedly to the top.
We finished our album and we talked to this record company. They said, well, we need one more song. And then this Jamaican producer came over and he brought this song and it was a rock version of Don't Turn Around.
Written by Tunesmiths Diane Warren and Albert Hammond, Don't Turn Around had never been a hit.
Tell you the truth, I heard it, didn't like it. I don't want to do this song.
But the chorus was wicked, but how are we going to turn this into what we want to do? So I went to the piano, tried to work out the song, turn it into a bit of reggae, let's see if I would get it, and I started to play it. And then when it was finished, I kind of went, you know what? That's all right, you know, Joby.
I didn't like the song until it got to number 4.
Because the actual song was actually written for a woman. Right. But when you see the sentiments of the song, it says, don't turn around, because I don't want you to see me crying. It actually worked as a man's sentiments. Yeah, I'm going to cry, but you ain't going to see it. Don't turn around, I don't want to see me crying. Just walk away. It's telling me I'm not that you're leaving. I'm letting you go.
With every programme, you have to sort of fine-tune it occasionally. You have to not make drastic changes and throw the baby out with the bathwater, but you just update it. Maybe we're now, what we are indeed, trying to head towards the 90s. And so we have some new sets, some new titles. It's cosmetic surgery, really.
Portiani had come to the right conclusion that there weren't many women presenting Top of the Pops. They needed a couple of telly-tarts, really, who could do live television.
This is Karen Keating.
And this is a presenter I made earlier. Karen brought along with her Blue Peter fans, and I brought all the sort of Saturday morning live television fans as well. Spit it out. So we were hitting maybe a younger demographic, but the one that Top of the Pops obviously wanted to hold on to.
Welcome to Top of the Pops, brand new number 1 and a brand new presenter, Anthea Turner.
Hi, it's great to be here. We're going to kick off tonight's show with Milli Vanilli.
They brought Nicky Campbell and he was a kind of hot young gun. He was really up for it, really bouncy and cool.
Last time this next band appeared on Top of the Pops, they were with Colcott and they made a tremendous impression. Do you remember? Yeah! Good.
Top of the Pops, and that was the most exciting thing about it, to actually be on Top of the Pops, which was, it was a mainstay. It was like at the core, it was the heart of pop music in those days.
Hypnotic stuff.
All the fresh-faced presenters and flashy new gizmos courted the younger members of the family audience. But the real challenge was the rapid change in pop culture, which was fast outstripping Paul Charney's efforts to update the show.
Let me take you to a place I know you wanna go. It's a good life.
I feel like I was slightly on the front line of cultures clashing because I was working with Pete Tong and trying to get a lot of the acts that he was signing up as dance acts and trying to get them exposure through telly, which was really difficult because the mainstream within broadcasting just didn't have a bloody clue what was going on.
Pop had its place, but the other story of 1988 was the rise of the warehouse party. Raves sprang up every weekend in secret locations, and euphoric kids danced into the second summer of love.
It's a very exciting time musically because there's all these people from different backgrounds united by a love of partying, dancing and music and having a good time. Couldn't get into the West End clubs. They weren't interested. They just were interested in selling you expensive drinks and playing crap music. And so that was the warehouse scene when we'd take over venues, sometimes illegally, and just have a party at the drop of a hat.
Everything exploded, and suddenly the underground house scene in the UK went overground, almost overnight.
The dance scene was throwing up DIY records that thousands of clubbers fell in love with and bought. These hits would quickly climb the charts. And as Top of the Pops was dictated by the top 40, there was a problem. How to invite not an act, but a track into a TV studio.
You'd have an appointment to go in to sit down with Paul in his office and talk through what the act was that you were going to try and get onto the show. You know, I remember having conversations. OK, so they're not actually playing any instruments on the track because it's all programmed and sampled. What do you mean they don't play instruments? Well, there's samples that are featured on the track, and, well, how are you going to represent that? Well, we can have a keyboard. And as soon as you say keyboard, they get the idea of what you're trying to portray here, because it's an instrument. No one really had a grip on what this culture was. And, of course, it wasn't meant for this. It wasn't meant for Top of the Pops. It was meant to be heard in a sweaty club on a Saturday night. It wasn't meant to transfer into your living room on a Thursday with your dad watching going, what the bloody hell is this?
The problem for the grown-ups was the scene's association with drugs. It was called acid house, and everyone knows that means hallucinogen LSD, right? Wrong.
Like it or not, ecstasy was what made it reach fever pitch. We had this intense scene that was fueled by ecstasy, and a lot of people would come to these clubs and be like, we don't get this music, and they'd take a pill and suddenly everything would fall into place. For a lot of people, it took the ecstasy to tune into the sound.
I was working at London Records at the time, and we released a track called, we call it Acid, that featured this legend in clubland called Gary Haseman. His job on the record was just to literally shout the word acid.
It was definitely from the scene. I remember first hearing it at Spectrum and just going, what is this? That sounds like Gary Haseman, who would be like chanting acid, acid in the clubs. Suddenly it was on the record and it was him with Danny D.
Bassline be bumping, bodies rocking, people in the crowd, you hear them shout.
It's in reference to the musical style that was predominant throughout '88. But you try explaining that to the producer of Top of the Pops, that it's actually not about LSD, it's about the music. No one was buying it, I'm afraid.
Some people wanted to call it a novelty record, but to be honest, those people wanted to call the whole of the house scene a novelty, a fad, and hope that it would just fade away and disappear.
Dance culture certainly didn't disappear, and Top of the Pops had to deal with it. Thank goodness there was a DJ who could bring all the elements of clubland together in one party-loving pop package.
Enjoy this trip. And it is a trip.
The thing about S-Express was it had to come from someone like Mark Moore, who had a brilliant musical take on things. He had a really brilliant visual take on things as well. So instead of it being the sort of boring DJ type of setup, he went, no, let's make a pop act.
The whole S-Express look was actually based on Sly and the Family Stone and cartoons. Jackson 5 cartoon and Josie and the Pussycats cartoon. I just wanted this kind of fun posse to travel around with me. The blueprint for S-Express was a mixture of the hip-hop techniques of looping breakbeats and stuff, but instead of looping the breakbeat, I wanted to loop disco records. Disco was a dirty word. And, you know, people didn't realise there was this whole underground disco scene that happened before it became over-commercialised with Saturday Night Fever. And that's what the general public thought disco was, the naff stuff. They didn't realise there was all this really cool stuff, which was very kind of black and Hispanic and mixed and gay and real melting pot. So I want to do with disco what the hip-hop artists had done with funk and James Brown. With S-Express, I looped as the main backbone to the record, Rolls Royce, Is It Love That You're After? It just comes at the beginning on their original record. And it kind of disappears and you want more of it. Radio 1 wouldn't play it because at the time that record, Theme from S-Express, sounded really weird on the radio compared to all the Stock Aitken Waterman stuff that was being played. And then it shot up just on Club Play to number 3, I think. And then Radio 1 thought, we're going to look like idiots if we don't start playing this, and it goes to number 1.
The nation has a brand new number 1.
You're quite right. And an excellent song. It's the theme from S-Express from S-Express.
This is where parents are going to call in after 30 years and say, I knew you were wrong. And yeah, I took a cheeky half on Top of the Pops because the first experience of sitting around all day was so boring. Of course, when I was up on the stage, there was a brief moment where I totally forgot who I was, where I was, what I was doing there. And I just remember looking at all these lights and these people dancing around and going, oh, the lights are really beautiful. This club's great. I'm having the time of my life. I was on that stage and thinking, yeah, we're part of this huge secret and we're beaming a little part of that secret into your living rooms so you can get a little taste of things to come.
Hip-hop was most definitely an American import, yet a nascent British scene was building, and the girls were leading the way.
In America, it was the norm for females to take the mic, more so than it was here.
Sisters Samantha and Sandra Lawrence spearheaded the first wave of female rappers in '88. Ealing's answer to Salt and Pepper was signed to Jive Records as the Wee Papa Girl Rappers.
Our father was from St. Lucia, and so in St. Lucia they always speak the broken French, a bit of English, and whenever he'd be watching the horse racing, he'd be geeing up the horse and say, "Wee Papa!"
Wee Papa girls.
Yeah.
DJ Tom, play on the mix all night. Fingers ruffing up his sweat so you can hear it all night.
I think we just never felt like rap was something we couldn't do as females. It was more like, oh, we loved it, let's give it a try, let's write our own raps.
It's where the roughest, toughest, greatest, neatest, if you be, we will defeat this. There ain't nothing that you can miss, no!
Always used to go to the clubs and jam Tim Westwood jams and stuff.
Getting ready to crank the section to the TOP tonight.
We gigged a lot. We did so many shows.
The way me and Sandra mainly worked was when a producer brought us a beat, go and wait and listen to it. We just came up with it. It's like that, yeah. It's like that. So heat it up. And it just seemed to work.
It's like that, yeah. It's like that, so heat it up. It's like that, yeah. It's like that, so heat it up.
Like when we got to the Top of the Pops and actually being on the stage, it was then that it dawned on me that we've made something of ourselves.
They're far more empowering than a lot of the other acts as well. It is, we can do this ourselves. This is what we wrote. We're on Top of the Pops. Get us.
It was the right track, at the right time.
They weren't diluted in any way at all, just because there was a dance beat at the back of what they were doing. You know, they really, in a way, became the first kind of British pop star rappers.
Heated Up was a crossover hit that made it to 21, but with the follow-up, they truly arrived.
We met up with the producer Hamish MacDonald, and the minute we heard it, it was very us. It was really upbeat, it was fun, it was happy.
Inspiring.
And it had our ragga in it.
And just like the American rap acts that enjoyed a battle, the Wee Papas were happy to answer any beef from their Brit rivals.
I just loved all the female girl rappers, loved them all. It was only when a few things were said. So then we just start bite them back in our lyrics. So there's a little something in every song that we've written.
I saw you sleeping on a station on a train, you were bench. I saw you turned away embarrassed, started swearing in French.
You started saying, but you just didn't know.
Thought I passed exams in French about 1 year ago. And this beat is mine.
This beat is mine.
This beat is mine. If you can't take that.
And you can kiss my boot.
This is Jeffrey Sumner, and in 1988, he was sending kids into orbit on just about every dance floor in the land.
Here we go.
This is a journey into sound. A journey which along the way will bring to you new color, new dimension, new values, and a new experience. Stereophonic sound.
Beat Dis by Bomb the Bass featured Sumner's velvety voice.
This is a journey into sound. Stereophonic sound.
But it was Cold Cut who'd originally lifted the sample from a 1958 record for their remix of Paid in Full. 88 was the year of the remix, and Cold Cut nailed it.
Yeah, I was a teacher, I was teaching art, but also at the same time, I was DJing. And I think the time that I decided maybe I should follow my DJing career was when I was in a club, and 3 of the kids that I had taught that day came up to me and said, "Sir, what are you doing here?"
They first started putting out these kind of sampling beats, like break beats.
So there's another way to put sound together, and it was a fresh sound, and that took off.
And then suddenly they started doing more housey stuff with Yaz.
We met Yaz through our record company, and we had this idea to do a track, which was Doctoring the House. We needed a singer. We had this idea for a line.
Actually, the chorus, the idea was ripped off from an old house record on Tracks.
Working with Yaz was great. She was open to lots of things.
And I remember her calling up from Germany saying, "I know you wanted to sing the line like this, but what if it went like, 'We're Doctor in the House'?" And she sang it down the phone and thought, yeah, that sounds good. So suddenly we were on top of the pops with Yaz. When you're starting off, things are often quite simple. You don't really know what you're doing, so you don't take notice of any of the rules. So Doctor in the House was a sort of innocent moment, really.
For their next release with Yaz, Matt and John dug up a Northern soul gem.
John's got a fantastic collection, which occasionally we mine over and think this would make a great cover version. You know, The Only Way Is Up is a great song. Combining a great song with Yaz's charisma and good voice, and then the sort of acid house production technique with some scratching thrown in as well, just turned out to be the right thing at the right time.
When we were recording the vocals, we were quite harsh with her. It's like, no, you can't do any more overdubs, that's it. Get it right one time.
Vocalists like to track their voice up because it makes it sound thicker and richer, but actually it's quite nice to have it more naked.
If your heart's in the right place and you want it to be the best, then you all understand that actually you've got to push a bit further.
That's what's important. It needed that hard work.
The only way is up.
Tears Up became the biggest-selling single of the year up to that point, and even kept Kylie from the #1 spot.
We heard that it was selling really well, but you listen to the countdown, think, oh, we must have missed it. It's like, damn, we must be #1.
She was a great act, and that was a great one for the audience to really get into.
Although Top of the Pops was usually broadcast live to the nation on a Thursday night, the performances were rarely live. This was the prime time of mime.
Each band that turned up on the show would have to re-record. This was all MU rules, Musicians Union rules. They'd have to re-record their single so it could be used on the show. But ultimately, in 6 hours, you probably couldn't reproduce what you'd taken 4 months to do in the studio. So someone would get taken out to lunch while they swapped the tapes over.
It was very interesting. If you played the record, and we had copies of the disc there, but exactly in sync with the tape, they played perfectly together, and you could actually make them fades, which is a technical term for meaning they were copies.
It's got to be.
Aside from the naughty bands who wouldn't play ball and pretend nicely, miming meant a show that ran smoothly from stage to stage. But in 1988, Top of the Pops made the mother of all technical cock-ups and television history.
Oh, God. It's making me just feel horrible discussing it again. I still can't watch it.
I saw All About Eve for the first time in the summer of 1986. I just thought, wow, what a fantastic voice. I asked Julianne if she would come and sing on her album.
And that was the start of it. Then they took us on tour. And of course, the Mission's fan base attached themselves to All About Eve.
And Simon and I produced a single for them. And then lo and behold, they had a bigger hit than we did.
You are an ocean wave, my love, crashing at the bow.
Hello, how you doing? Welcome to Top of the Pops.
We were in the rehearsal studio down near Brighton, actually, at the time, and it was like, oh, All About Eve are going to be on Top of the Pops. It was like, yeah, great. We all had a little bit of a smoke, so we were all a little bit stoned.
Julianne Reagan has got a beautiful voice.
Not kidding.
And she is part of All About Eve. They're at 22, aren't they? Martha's Harbour!
Over here.
Yeah!
The applause dies down, and you were waiting for the backing track to come on to Mime Along to Live. The backing track never came on.
The track was run from sound, because I could hear it on my talkback being run through the microphones in the gallery. So as far as Paul and everyone in the gallery was concerned, the track was there, but it wasn't faded up on the floor.
But they obviously couldn't hear the track. And Paul, in a very calm voice, said, what is going on to sound next door?
At which point I'd have looked on meters. It's okay leaving me, which is the classic get out for any technician.
We just got the horror of the red light of the camera, moving from camera to camera, knowing it was going out live.
But I remember the air going blue over talkback. Why aren't they singing? What's going on? What's going on? They just thought they were just doing some sort of mad protest.
Julianne and Tim just sat there and the music playing, and I was thinking, this is fantastic. God, I wish I thought of this, doing this myself. This is just showing up the farcical miming aspect of being on Top of the Pops.
They got the A&R man stood in front of us going, do it live, do it live. And it's like, this guitar's not even in tune, man, you know.
And her mic wasn't live. So it was probably actually a dummy mic. So there was no way that they could remedy the situation.
And eventually, the track lurched in. Somebody pressed the button. We were forced, which was almost even worse, to join in with it.
What we should have done is thrown to an emergency VT or something, but no, we didn't. We just stayed on them for an uncomfortable minute and a half. Poor sods.
Julianne was understandably just beside herself. And we both thought, that's it, we had a chance and we've blown it.
But they hadn't blown it. As the single climbed the chart, Paul Ciani broke the golden rule of Top of the Pops and invited All About Eve back the following week. This time, everything was live.
I sit by the harbor. The sea calls to me.
We wanted to kind of vindicate ourselves, really. This is what we actually are. Now make your mind up.
You are an ocean wave, my love, crashing at the bow.
Julianne's got such a voice. She can do that. Most of us, you know, are better off miming, you know, for sure.
Find out the way to sail you.
Britain in 1988 enjoyed its share of major cultural milestones. A Brief History of Time was published. Artists Against Apartheid staged a birthday tribute to the still-imprisoned Nelson Mandela. Shakespeare's Globe Theatre was discovered by archaeologists on London's South Bank. But the event that brought the country to a standstill was a royal wedding, as soap opera superstars got spliced.
We were a double act, we were a natural partnership. And the fact that we were a couple, you know, behind the scenes added to that chemistry.
We just couldn't get enough of them, so it was squeally exciting when Jason joined Kylie in the pop arena.
Well, I was just probably a natural progression from Kylie. I wanted to try and move in a different direction than she had done. But it just kept coming back to pop and Stock Aitken Waterman.
As the festive season drew near, Pete Waterman combined his assets for an odds-on Christmas #1. Surely 1988 couldn't end in another chart cliffhanger.
It's just perfect. So you've got Kylie, you've got Jason, they're both having hit singles. I know, let's put them together.
Especially for you.
A great song. Saccharine sweet, but brilliant, and still stands the test of time.
Especially for you. I wanna tell you I was feeling that way too.
You cannot deny the fact that the two of them together and singing a romantic love song and the are they or aren't they, it just creates a moment.
But before their kiss could be sealed, someone stole the mistletoe.
If you ask anyone what's the most prestigious chart position, they'll say to be #1 on Christmas Day. It's even better if that's a Christmas record, and it's better still if you're celebrating 30 years in the music business. Here is our #1.
Yes, pop's oldest living doll had pirouetted off with the prize.
Christmas time, mistletoe and wine, children singing Christmas.
What do you have to do? What do you have to do, Cliff? Play tennis?
Game, set and match. Sir Cliff of Hanger. As the curtain comes down on the 1980s and the wall comes down in Europe, East meets West and the North conquers the South, and Top of the Pops sees out the end of the decade with a bang.
It was December 24th on Hollis Ave at the dark when I seen a man chilling with his dog
festive music mixes for every mood this Christmas. Listen on BBC Sounds.
Do you like Christmas, Paul?
Not really.
Well, I hope after this trip, maybe you'll feel a little bit more the spirit of Christmas.
Give us a hug.
This is what Christmas is all about. Hey. Good, we've made some progress.
Everyone back to mine!
Proper Christmas telly. Oh, you really pulled out all the stops, didn't you?
Come together this Christmas with Mortimer and Whitehouse. Sunday the 13th of December on BBC